Okay, everybody, thank you. And so I'm delighted now to introduce Dr. Frank Mendel, who first got his initial degree in physical anthropology at the University of California, Davis, and who now serves here in the city of Buffalo as a professor of anatomy at the State University of New York and also as my personal friend. His primary interest is on the relationships between form and function and has examined questions stemming from this interest in a variety of species: monkeys, sloths, bats, big cats, both extant and extinct. And because of his interest in big cats and saber-toothed cats is why we were delighted to have him with us today. Dr. Mendel.
Thank you all. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, as the subtitle tells you, something about how cats, all cats, big cats, small cats, kill their prey. And I want to tell you that what I have to say about domestic cats, small cats, is actually the work of other people. So I will recite that to you. The work that are some of the stuff that I show you here on big cats is something that my wife Sandy up there in the corner and a whole bunch of engineer friends of mine have been putting together and hope to publish here this year. So what I'm going to talk to you about this afternoon is stuff we've been working on for a while, and it hopefully will be available for you in real form in the very near future. We also have a cat, and those are her eyes up in the right corner. She's solid black, so she fits nicely in this. And so she, in name and in behavior, is a diva. That is her name. So she'll be checking on, and when you see her eyes, that usually means I'm trying to talk about small cats or domesticated cats. So with that, let's see if I can get this to work. Sure enough. All cats are, as we just heard from Dr. Johnson, very tightly grouped. And when I was the age of some of those kids in the back room, virtually all the cats were in one genus. They were all considered Felis. They've subsequently been broken out, and we've now seen that they're much more widely diversified. But as Dr. Johnson said, cats look like cats, whether they're big cats, small cats. Size is really the big difference. But one of the things that distinguishes cats from other carnivores is that these guys truly are highly specialized carnivores, and in fact they are obligate meat eaters. They can only eat meat, okay? So you all had experience. If you've had cats, they'll eat some grass, they puke all over your all over your carpet, etc. They don't handle that stuff very well. As part of their adaptation for meat eating, they have very highly specialized dentitions, teeth. So here's a cat. This is a lioness, and you can see some of the characteristics of cat dentitions. Big spiky canines. You've all known about that. Not easily seen here, but typically all cats, even these big ones, have little tiny peg-like incisors. Very specialized cheek teeth, back teeth. They've lost some molars, and I won't worry about the numbers here, and I have with me, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but what I really want to show you, this is a tigress skull, and I can't walk around, I find out, so I can't bring this closer to you. But what I really want you to see, even without much detail, is with those interlocking canines, right? You can see those, everybody? All right, cool. So these cheek teeth back here, highly specialized. Maybe you can see from the back row, hopefully, the upper teeth, cheek teeth, overlap entirely. So if I open the jaws of this cat, right, watch the upper jaw, the teeth of the upper jaw, slide right over the top of the lower jaw. So they work like scissor blades. They don't come together. They do not occlude, right? So the blades slide past one another. And so those are highly specialized teeth. We find them in all carnivores, but they're most highly developed in the cats, all right? So you just find that part of the skull, that part of the dentition, you know you've got a cat or a cat-like carnivore, all right? Also, not obvious perhaps from the slide, and unless you look pretty carefully, even at the big cats at zoos, there's often a big gap between this upper canine and this cheek teeth, and that's called a diastema. It's just a gap. And you could theoretically put 2 fingers. I don't know that I'd recommend that, but you could put a couple of fingers between the canine here and those cheek teeth, and that'll have hopefully some relevance in a moment here. All right, so now we've talked about the teeth. How do you drive those teeth? Well, these cats, all cats, big, small cats, have the same muscles of mastication that you do. So up on the side of your head, there's a big muscle called a temporalis. And this happens to be a saber tooth, which I may or may not be able to talk about this afternoon. But here it is with just the skull, and here's that temporalis. This is a tigress that I'm dissecting. So here's her temporalis up here. Here's her canines. Her eye is covered by this little skin flap here. Here's this big bone, your cheekbone right here. There's a big muscle that comes off of that. You have that same muscle. If you clench your teeth, you can feel this muscle from the angle of your jaw here going up to this zygomatic arch, so-called. And here's this gigantic masseter in this cat. This is a big thing, okay? So they're highly enlarged, so they have the same muscles you do, but they're much larger, so people assume that they have a very powerful bite. We've done some experiments, and indeed they are pretty powerful bites. However, notice how far back on the jaws these muscles are laid out, okay? So this is equivalent to opening and closing this jaw from the hinge side of the door, right? So it's not really as effective as you might expect. So yes, big powerful muscles, but working at a mechanical disadvantage here. So I'll leave it go at that. So a point I really want you to get, if I can make any points here worth remembering, is that yes, the big cats in particular are thought to have these giant powerful bites, and they're raising havoc with their prey. Well, I don't think that's the case. In fact, I think these are pretty finessed bites. So both domesticated cats and the big cats are carefully placing their bites and attempting to save as much energy as possible by putting those bites in the right place, and I'll try to show you where those go. So the fact, if this point is true, that allows then young and old cats who have not developed their full power or have lost their full power to continue killing. All right? So that's enough of that, I think. A little bit about cats. Most of you probably know this already. Most cats, by far and away the majority of cats, are throughout their life solitary hunters for the most part and rely on ambush, right? They sneak up on prey or they hunt prey out of ambush. Here's a beautiful cat from the Buffalo Zoo, but just another example. One of the cats we know most about, lions, is a real obvious exception, right? They hunt in groups. They hunt more like dogs than most other cats. So if you're going to be, well, there's a couple of other examples. Mating animals are, when females of virtually any species of cat go into heat, males will visit, may spend a bit of time with the female. They may hunt together for a short time, and mothers with kids are the only other examples of cats hunting in more than singles numbers. So if you're going to hunt by yourself, then you have to do something to your prey, especially if you're going to eat prey or try to kill prey considerably bigger than you. So cats must incapacitate their prey before they can begin to eat it. They could just kill the prey outright, but in some cases they don't. But they don't want that prey kicking and screaming, making a lot of noise. So they have to incapacitate that prey before they can move on to the eating process. And cats like that process to be quick and quiet. They want it to be quick because as long as that prey is thrashing around, right, the cat is in danger of being injured. So you want to minimize that. And if you make a lot of noise, cats typically are pretty shy, retiring animals. Even if you're a tiger, you may not be the biggest cat on the block. Or there may be other predators who will come and take that prey item from you. So if you can quickly dispatch that prey and take it someplace that you want to be, that's safer, out of the way. Leopards are well known for taking prey up into trees, right? It's not because it's a better view up there. It just gets the prey off the playing field. All right. So all these cats, again, small, big, use their canines to kill. I'll try to demonstrate that in a moment. And they use these specialized cutting teeth back here to butcher. So you can watch your cat work on a carcass that they may bring to you as a present, right, to your living room or wherever. And if you watch them carefully, when they actually want to eat that prey, they'll turn their head sideways and use those cheek teeth. They won't use their anterior teeth for that purpose. Big and small cats use those canines in different ways. And so let's start with small cats. This is not a cat, but this is to remind me this is small cat stuff. Your domesticated cat or domestic cat very frequently kills its prey. Could be birds, could be lizards, could be small rodents. Very frequently go to the nape of the neck. Now, on a bird, they can just as easily go right through the skull because that skull is very thin. On very small prey like field mice, they may actually puncture the lungs and some other things. But more often than not, they go to the nape of the neck. And what they do is pretty slick here. Again, this is not my work, but been around for a while, and I'll show you some references in a moment. They are feeling with their canines for gaps between the vertebrae. So I figured most of you would be more familiar with your own vertebra. So this is one of us, that is to say, a very handsome person here. Here's the back of the skull, here's the top vertebra, the atlas, the axis, and so on. Typical mammal, 7 cervical vertebrae. There are gaps between those vertebrae, which are in life filled with cartilage, right? And then there are gaps between these so-called neural arches. And running in this space right here from one vertebra to the next is where your spinal cord runs. So if the cat were big enough to bite you in the back of the neck, the nape of the neck, right? And is now feeling with their canine tips, trying to find spaces between these vertebrae, right? If they bit back out here where the muscles are, you grab yourself in the back of the neck, fair amount of muscle back there, you can bite on that all you want. Yes, you'll punch holes, it'll bleed a little bit, nothing lethal. So in order to make this lethal, this cat has to slide a tooth, just one tooth will do it, in the gap right here where the nerves actually exit the spinal cord and come out to the neck, a little bit lower down here the upper limb as well, right? Slide a canine in here and effectively cut the cord. That immediately, okay, may not kill the prey, but it renders it a quadriplegic. Boom, done. So cat doesn't really care whether the animal's dead or not. It's just not going to fight him anymore, right? So now your cat may bring this paralyzed animal into your house, drop him on your carpet or whatever, right? Or bring it in by holding onto the back of the neck, and now it runs around your house. So that's what Diva does for us very frequently. We're chasing mice and other rodents around our house because she thinks that's fun. 5 minutes already. All right. So may not kill, but paralyzes. And so when you look at your animals here, you very seldom see any blood, any holes, anything in that prey. It's very select. All right? So I don't think there's very much force, and in fact, the animal does not want to be driving teeth into bone here. Has to feel. So great power is not needed. All right. Big cats. They go, some big cats, well, if it's small prey, if they can just hit the animal upside the head and break its neck, or twist the animal's neck and break its neck, they'll do that. But for prey that's half again as big as the cat or even bigger, and some big cats will take animals that weigh a ton, so 4 or 5 times the cat's body weight, right? So in those instances, they cannot go to the nape of the neck. They simply can't get to the vertebra. It's too deep in the neck. So very often, they will go to the throat. This is very typically what you see. Now, on occasion, they can put their mouth over the nose and mouth of their prey and suffocate that prey. Seems like an easy way to go, and it does happen, but not terribly frequently. The more common way to do that is like this, where we see the cat wrestle this, in this case wildebeest, down, and then sink or bite right up underneath the jaw here. Okay? One of the things that we found, and if you watch the films, the cat seldom ever penetrates the skin. We found out by doing some experiments that I don't have time to talk about. In many cases, they can't penetrate the skin. Skin is too tough. So it's not a bloody wound at all. All right, so what's the anatomy here? Here again is that same animal, that's us, and I want you to look at this nice, I don't know how well you can see this in the back. You see this shadow right here? This is your airway. This is your nasal cavity. Here's your upper teeth, lower teeth, angle of your jaw. This is your airway that goes down here. Your esophagus begins right there. This is your airway down here. This is your trachea, okay? So your neck and the neck of this animal, and I know you can't see this very well, but perhaps you can see the shadow. Here's his jaw. Here's these vertebrae right here. And here's this groove where the jugular vein, okay, and the airway is right here. So this is a narrow, soft tissue just like the front of your throat, okay? If this animal, and it turns out to form a nice jig, so if the cat were to bite this animal in the neck and hit bone, he or she knows just to come slightly forward, okay? Handy? So here's what I think is going on this is modeled after a horse neck, but here's the vertebra, here's the airway. Everybody understand where we are? So this is the back of the neck. Here's the airway up here, just underneath the skin. Over here are a couple of jugular veins. Everybody goes for the jugulars. Actually, cats don't care about jugulars. They care about these arteries right here that are laid right up against the vertebra here, against the muscle here. These are the carotid arteries. These are the main blood supply to the brain, and to the head, actually, but what we care about is the brain. So here's a fairly thick-skinned animal. This cat now applies a bite. If he goes too deep, he'll hit the bone. He knows to come forward, right? So he carefully pinches in here, uses the skin, the leather, which most of you are wearing leather boots. Leather is tough stuff. It's hard to puncture, very hard to puncture, right? So that skin indents, and all that does is pressurize everything inside this compartment, but mostly the stuff up front here. And as you see, the arteries went from round to collapsed, both the jugulars and the carotids. In about 8 to 10 seconds, the animal passes out for lack of oxygen. The bad news is that's good for the cat. The animal quits struggling. That's all good. Notice that this airway fits nicely in that diastema. It's very hard for a pointy-toothed cat to actually step on the airway because it's round and slippery. It's very hard to crush, okay? But stepping on this crimps these vessels, animal passes out. The problem is you have to hold for 6 to 8 minutes for the brain to die. In 6 to 8 minutes, all kinds of things can happen. If you're biting on the neck of some calf of a buffalo or something, what do you suppose Mom and Uncle Bob are doing, right? They're trying to ram your head in the ground, right? And many cats, big cats, die with a mouthful of somebody's neck, okay? So that's the way you do. So this now is quick, and I've got to get going, and so I will stop with saber-tooth and just say this special method of killing, again, very soft bite on soft structures of the neck, requires virtually no strength. You could do this with your hand if you could hold the prey down. That would be a big if, right? All right. So virtually very seldom ever penetrate the skin. You could do this with no canines. Canines are not essential for this. So old cats, new cats, young cats, all can get this done. All right? Thanks very much.